Well, welcome in. Just like that, sports scene is on the air. We'll get to those other stories in just a moment. But first, we start our special coverage of the FIFA World Cup 2022 with the Qatar 2022 Chief Executive Nasser Al-Khater, saying the kingdom has faced a lot of unfair criticism over hosting a football showpiece that was not based on facts. Al-Khater told a news conference on Thursday, the first held by organizers in months, that sports and transport infrastructure in the desert country were complete and remaining work was aesthetic less than 70 days prior to the tournament's kickoff. Al-Khater spoke at Lusail Stadium, which will host the World Cup finals, and over 1 million fans are expected to attend the event, with many flying or driving from neighboring Gulf states.
You have been being journalists or members of the media following sports and following the World Cup in particular know undoubtedly that Qatar has been faced with a lot of criticism from the very beginning. We've always maintained the fact that people who have not visited Qatar will have a different perception from when they do visit Qatar. Everyone is free to make their own judgment. Everybody's free to make their own perception. This is human nature. However, we think that a lot of the criticism has been unfair. A lot of the criticism has been not based on factual reality. Whatever we felt was fair criticism, we've taken on board.
Well, we now cross live to Doha, where our reporter Sadiq Shaban is on hand to bring us more as the countdown to the FIFA World Cup 2022 continues. Sadiq, it's over to you.
Well, thank you very much, Richard. Now, here in Qatar, you can almost feel, the World Cup. You can almost feel the excitement in the air. And the preparations are, you could say, complete at this particular point in time. The government of Qatar says this will be the most compact World Cup in the history of the competition. The 8 stadia that we have seen around are all within the radius of 75 kilometers each. Now, before the opening ceremony of the Lusail Super Cup last night, Qatar had already inaugurated 7 stadiums. So the Lusail Stadium yesterday, in that brilliant atmosphere that we witnessed, is the last of the 8 stadia. It's the biggest. It will host the final of this competition on 20th, on 18th of December. The final World Cup, certainly the fixtures are out, the fans are aware, but Qatar says for football fans who are coming to this country, they will need something called Hayat card. Now, this is an entry requirement document into this country. It will replace visa requirements for fans and visitors coming to Qatar. Now, what this card does is that it gives fans an opportunity to go to the stadium and use the public transportation system for free. We are talking about trams, metro system, as well as the bus. And Qatar says this higher document will be very, very key for anyone coming into this Gulf state, because it will be valid for the entire period of the World Cup, and it will enable the owners, or rather those who have acquired it, multiple entry into this Gulf state. And Richard, as you have heard earlier from the CEO of the Qatar 2022, Nasser Al-Khater, alongside members of the Supreme Committee, they have insisted that Qatar indeed is ready to host the 2022 FIFA World Cup, just 70 days away. The Gulf state has invested millions of dollars in order to ensure the facilities are there, the infrastructure is top-notch, and that the fans, millions of whom are expected here, will have a memorable tournament. Now, he's been speaking to us about what's expected and declaring Qatar's readiness to host this football extravaganza. The moment the Gulf state of Qatar has been dreaming of is finally here. The Arab world is about to host its first ever World Cup in just a matter of weeks.
For me, it's a mixed bag of feelings, to be honest with you. I've been on this project from the very beginning, 2009, when we bid to host the World Cup, the excitement of winning, the huge task over the past 12 years in building the organization, building the team, putting the plans in place, seeing the country grow and develop in the past 10 years. The new airport, the metro system, the huge highway project that's been completed, all the beautiful stadiums, all the ups and downs, you know.
Just days ago, the country tested the transportation system for the World Cup, unveiling hundreds of buses, some imported from the People's Republic of China. Metro and tram lines were also tested.
For the past few years, we have been preparing for this event, where we are preparing more than 4,000. We have prepared more than 4,000 buses and more than 14,000 spectators and drivers for the event, with more than 300 routes.
The organizers say they expect full capacity in each of the 8 venues. However, up to 3 non-ticketed fans will be allowed entry into Qatar only on invitation by one ticketed supporter, but they must have accommodation secured and must pre-register to enter the Gulf state.
If we look at the excitement of fans to attend the World Cup, we can see that from the demand on the tickets. Demand reached 70 million tickets. We know that we have only 3 million tickets available for the World Cup, so the demand is extremely high. The pickup on the purchase of tickets is going extremely well.
Already 2.5 million tickets have been snapped up for the 2022 World Cup, with many people now counting days to the kickoff.
We are really happy as Arabs and Muslims that a Muslim country like Qatar is hosting a huge world event like the World Cup. It is joyful for everyone, not only to Qataris, but to all Arab people. We wish Qatar success, and we wish to see the best version of a World Cup ever.
I booked tickets for the World Cup, and I have my hire card, and I have already watched some matches in the World Cup stadiums, like Al Bayt Stadium, which will host the opening match, and I watched a game in Stadium 974, and this is the 3rd time I'm watching a match here in Lusail Stadium. It looks like a piece of art.
For members of the Supreme Committee, years of planning have now come down to a matter of days before kickoff.
There's a lot of excitement, obviously, with me and the team. We know that there's still a lot of work to do, and there's a bit of sadness, that this is the end of the journey for this. So, looking forward to what opportunities will come next. But like I said, this is really a mixed emotion moment for me in my life.
The 2022 World Cup in Qatar will begin a day earlier than planned. Host Qatar will face Ecuador in the opening match on Sunday, November 20th. With the Super Cup being played at the Lusail Stadium, the biggest stadium of the 2022 FIFA World Cup, which will also host the final match of the competition, Qatar says it's now all systems go for the 2022 edition. The local organizing committee says the only ingredients left now are the millions of football fans and the 32 teams expected in this country from November. Sadiq Shaban, CGTN, at the Lusail Stadium in Doha, Qatar. Yes, and we have learned within the last day and a half that a lot of football fans from around the region would actually be driving through the borders into Qatar. Others will choose certainly to fly by air or to come by sea. Now, one person who knows quite a lot about the FIFA World Cup is retired Australian footballer Timothy Cahill, who played 14 seasons with the Socceroos, the Australian national team. Of course, at the club level, he's also played in China in the Chinese Super League. He's also played at the World Cup, including the 2010 World Cup in South Africa, where he met a lot of African players, including Samuel Eto'o and Didier Drogba. He's interacted with some of them, and he's been speaking about the chances of African football in the upcoming edition of the FIFA World Cup, including particularly Senegal.
They play a big role in football globally. Look in teams. Premier League, Serie A, Spain, African players, are important, the value. And so when you talk about competing in the World Cup, there's fully stocked teams there that people will be wary of playing. You look at Netherlands, Senegal, Qatar. Senegal could win that group, regardless of who's in Netherlands' team. So it's going to be a balance of some of these teams, Cameroon, just getting through their group, and then you've seen in the past the upsets that can happen in football, and there'll be some definitely a few shocks. I keep saying this World Cup because it's probably going to be the most level playing field.
So for Qatar, they say years of planning, years of bidding and dreaming for the 2022 World Cup is now coming to countdown. They're counting weeks and days and hours before the 2022 FIFA World Cup begins here in the Arab world, and particularly in Qatar. Qatar insists that the process has been long and tedious, but it's actually coming to the end, and they cannot wait to invite millions of football fans. About 2.5 million tickets have already been snapped up. So the Secretary General of the committee that is in charge with the delivery of these games and legacy, Hassan Al-Thawadi, has been reflecting on his journey from the bidding process up to this time where they are counting down to the World Cup.
From day one, when we first thought about bidding, legacy was the center of all our plans. Since then, we worked very diligently and very hard to ensure that every single real spent has a use beyond it, whether it's in terms of the infrastructure. So if we're looking at the transportation infrastructure, that is fundamental and central to Qatar's overall urban development plans going beyond the World Cup. So if we're talking about the metro system, again, encouraging people to utilize the metro system for the public transportation, reduce cars on the street, reduce congestion, reduce carbon emissions. If we're looking at the stadiums, every stadium in itself has its own use. Every stadium has its own story. 974 is a perfect example, a stadium unique in its designed from the very beginning to be completely disassembled at the end of the tournament and be reconfigured and reutilized beyond the tournament. Again, with a lot of the other stadiums, capacities will go down. That's all ready. The legacy plans that we've talked about are in place. If you follow the amount of interest that there's been in terms of the volunteers, in terms of ticket sales, in terms of every day when anybody working within the Supreme Committee or within the World Cup walks by and talks to people on the street who passionately ask, how can they contribute to the World Cup? How can they be a part of the World Cup? You realize that there's a huge excitement. You can feel it, you can touch it, you can taste it. And I think it's a matter of just the final countdown now. What I hope fans will leave when they leave the World Cup, apart from the great memories of a great tournament, great football, great experience, a great event, and so on, is the relationships that they build with other fans. To be able to come here with a certain, let's say, idea or view of people from different walks of life or different parts of the world, and then to actually meet them and have that change to the positive, to actually have a personal relationship built, to have a bond built, a bond that lasts beyond the World Cup. One of the greatest measures of success would be for, fans in Norway, for example, picking up the phone and calling up somebody in Iraq and wishing them a happy Eid. Somebody in Egypt calling up somebody in Japan and wishing them, happy National Day. And just having those memories, having those personal bonds that have been created and those bonds that last beyond it, beyond the World Cup. That for me is what I think it's a great opportunity for the first World Cup in the Arab world, the first World Cup in the Middle East. It's a great opportunity to really be a platform for bringing people together.
So Qatar says that the 2022 World Cup will not just be about the game of football. There will be so much on the sideline. There will be art, there will be music, there will be extravaganza of all kinds. And they are saying that up to 3 ticketed fans, unticketed fans can only come into this country upon invitation. So Richard Nta, back in our Nairobi studio, I am not so sure whether you have booked your ticket yet for the World Cup here, but you don't have to worry so much about the heat here in the Gulf, because the World Cup will be played in the summer where it is very cooler. From Doha, Richard, back to you in the studios in Nairobi.
All right, Sadiq, I'm going to take you up on that. I am going to book my ticket, courtesy of yourself. But Sadiq, thank you so much for that update and comprehensive report. We appreciate it.